Do you get, Geraldo Rivera, do you get excited seeing your name on the zipper? No, we call that a zipper.
Oh.
Brian calls that the zipper.
Do you get excited seeing your name?
See where you see
my name in lights for years.
Who are you pulling for tonight?
At home with
sorry.
Eric and Laura.
That's right.
Laura.
That's right. Who are you pulling for tonight? Yankees play the Astros, and whoever wins that goes on to.
Oh, I mean,
whoever
I
wins
used to sell the Long Island Press, and to get subscriptions, they gave you tickets in Yankee Stadium. So I started to go to Yankee Stadium when I was a very young boy.
So you just answered
a
the
Yankee.
question.
Except that I was in Cleveland. I am in Cleveland, so.
And you lost.
Go Tribe.
Sorry.
Right.
To the Yankees.
Gone Tribe.
Gone Tribe.
But
go Cavs. Go
obviously,
Cavs.
congratulations to the Dodgers. The last time they were in the World Series, it was Tommy Lasorda that brought them there.
Sure.
And that was the cutaway of Tommy Lasorda.
He was in the audience
stands.
last night, yeah.
I remember the Dodgers when they were in Brooklyn.
Indeed, and
You
Tommy
do
Lasorda.
not.
I do so.
Tommy's a big fan of Fox and Friends. He could be watching right
Is
now.
he
Hey, Tommy.
really? Hey, Tommy
Hey,
Lasorda.
we got to ask you about John F. Kelly. When he went in, Chief of Staff went in to answer all the questions we have had this past week regarding the president's call to the Gold Star widow. But he particularly took a shot at that Florida congresswoman, and he was stunned, he said, that she would eavesdrop on a personal phone call between the President of the United States making a condolence call to somebody who just lost their husband. What did you think about that, Geraldo?
Well, I mean, first of all, listening to General Kelly, who I just met on Air Force One and I had a chat with him, he's a very serious person, very mature, very dignified. I was so humbled by his remarks, and as a war correspondent who attended many memorials in the field, in the theater, I just thought that isn't there anything in our life now that isn't sacred, that can be above politics? How can you use this occasion to attack the president? It shows the virulence of the hatred against President Trump. But more than that, it shows a willingness to denigrate and to make base something that should be so noble and unifying. And to hear him, to hear this dad, this serious man, so obviously pained. And when he told the story of going to Arlington Cemetery, my God, Steve, I felt like crying there because he was so real, so sincere, and it really, his remarks, his demeanor, his message was so at odds. I tell you, I happened to be watching, I was on the bike exercising, so I was clicking around as I customarily do, and I saw it, and I happened to watch his remarks on another network. And I was thinking of the reporters on that network, they must have felt embarrassed about the way they had politicized President Trump's call
he answered
to
that
every
widow.
question. He answered every question.
Every single question, even, I've known Donald Trump forever. So I know that he's not the best ad-libber. I know that if I tell him, if I was an aide and I said, tell him this is what he signed up for, it was a dignified thing, and President Trump would then relate it, I could see how he could maybe be clumsy in doing it. But to then politicize his syntax, or to take this noble message of love, of compassion, of inclusion, and make it more about partisan politics, I swear to God, I don't know where we go. And those reporters must have been so embarrassed.
They weren't. Did you watch the nighttime shows? Then they just started ripping Kelly, saying that he's become a politico because he did what the president told him to do. You're going to tell me the president told him to do that? The president never told him to do that.
That was the least political speech I've heard in years from Washington. That was the most heartfelt speech. And the point he makes about 1% of the American population actually serving, and a tiny percentage of the 1% actually are in combat, risking their lives. What happened to those 4 GIs in Niger is tragic, and we have to investigate and find out exactly what the mission was, whether they were prepared, whether they were properly supported, and all the rest of it. But to take the president's condolence call to the widow and make that like everything else. It's just like everything else.
She became the number one booking at every network.
And it's so. I mean, at some point you've got to think, where's the dignity? Have you no shame? It really troubled me.
See if
really
this makes you feel any better. Quote, this is from Wilson. John Kelly's trying to keep his job. Meanwhile, as we look ahead, he is trying to keep his job. He will say anything. There were other people who heard what I heard. And so do you really think that Kelly's trying to keep his job? I
just wish that she would drop it. Let's drop this now. This is the last thing this widow needs.
She's not dropping it. She said she was going to stay silent. Now she's on another network this morning. And then this is what she said to a local reporter about everything. Listen to this.
When I was a kid growing up, a lot of things.
That's not the soundbite.
Right.
Here we go.
That the White House is following me and my word. This is amazing. That's amazing. That is absolutely phenomenal. I have to tell my kids that I'm a rock star now.
Oh, now she's famous.
You know, I contrast that. I'll give you a moment. Baghdad, Iraq. General John F. Kelly, General John F. Campbell, my friend, is commanding the troops in the Baghdad area. He calls me. We take a helicopter ride over the then very embattled capital city of Iraq. We land at this army base. We go into kind of an auditorium packed with the GIs who served in the unit of the person we were honoring. Mm-hmm. His boots were at the front of the auditorium, just his boots. And it was his buddies, not the commanders, but his peers who were telling us about this fallen soldier. I tell you, it was one of the most affecting moments of my entire life. And then to contrast that moment of dignity and I couldn't believe the strength General Campbell and the others showed in even talking about this kid who was alive a few hours before. And then to see this, to see it's a Democrat, a Republican, a right, a left, a red, a blue, it's just, it's appalling, it's deeply distressing, and I just ask people on both sides, drop this thing right now.
You know, Geraldo, it's not about her, it's not about the president, it's about our fallen soldiers, our men and women who give up everything to go over there so that we can have freedom. You mentioned that the things that are sacred have been lost now. The general touched on that yesterday. It was a very powerful soundbite. If you missed it, we want to play it for you. Listen to this.
When I was a kid growing up, a lot of things were sacred in our country. Women were sacred and looked upon with great honor. That's obviously not the case anymore, as we see from recent cases. Life, the dignity of life, was sacred. That's gone. Religion, that seems to be gone as well. Gold Star families, I think that left in the convention over the summer. But I just thought the selfless devotion that brings a man or woman to die on the battlefield, I just thought that that might be sacred. So I still hope, as you write your stories, and I appeal to America, that let's not let this maybe last thing that's held sacred in our society. A young man, young woman going out and giving his or her life for our country. Let's try to somehow keep that sacred. But it eroded a great deal yesterday by the selfish behavior of a member of Congress.
Wow.
Where I can't imagine if I had been admonished that way how I would be reacting. It certainly would not be the way the Congresswoman is reacting. I just see sincerity there. That's a dad speaking as well as a Marine commander.
Whose son is on his fifth tour, by the way.
And his son was on his fifth.
The other son.
It's just, it's a lot. Now, having said that, as a reporter, I'm very curious what the mission was in Niger. I don't have a lot of experience in West Africa. The French have basically taken the lead, but there is Boko Haram there. That's where the children were kidnapped, the couple of hundred little girls. It's very troubled. Al-Qaeda, or some manifestation of the radical Sunni Islamic extremism is really metastasizing in West Africa, and it's going to be trouble. And we are going to be involved. But for God's sakes, if something like this happens, the next time something like this happens, can't we stand shoulder to shoulder?
And you know what? Yesterday,
Republican, Democrat.
The Pentagon came out, and James Mattis said, you know, we don't know exactly what happened yet over there, but we are having an investigation. But unlike other people in this town, we're not going to tell. We're not going to start talking until we know the facts.
Well, I think that AFRICOM, that command in Africa, and what happens in Africa will have a telling effect and will spill over. I think it really is where the fight is right now. Now that Raqqa and the Caliphate are finished, I think you're going to see a move to Central and West Africa.
Right. I just would have loved to have seen the same outrage as ISIS was supposed to be the JV team. I never saw any of that outrage as Al-Qaeda ran crazy across Iraq and Syria.
Just one other. This criticism of President Trump on this issue, it is echoing what happened in Puerto Rico. In Puerto Rico, I saw with my eyes how the Puerto Rican people were responding to the president and the first lady. and then I came home and I saw the absolute 180 reporting on what I saw. There was absolutely
Not what I saw.
I saw they loved him. The reporters here who weren't there said they hated him. I saw how it would distort this. President Trump has the worst relationship with the media and the opposition ever. Anything he does is construed in the worst possible light as evil, as some kind of a secret motive, some kind of manipulation. He gets no slack at all, and that's part of the reason we are so utterly divided now that even this, even the most sacred event, honoring a hero, becomes politicized. I think it's really, really terrible.
The difference is, though, in Puerto Rico, when the mainstream media says the president's not helping, they don't really know the truth, a lot of their viewers. The difference here, though, is we're all humans. We know his intentions. When he called that Gold Star mother or that Gold Star widow and talked to her, and General Kelly explained that he was the one that gave him those words to say, and maybe the president ad-libbed it wrong. Right, told him not to call. But we know his heart in that situation. It's the wrong thing for the left to politicize, in my opinion. It makes them look bad, and America's smart enough to figure this out.
You're never going to win over the media except by winning. You start solving the situation in Al-Qaeda. You get the economy on a roll.
Just bite your tongue on this little area of our society. Just bite your tongue.
All right.
Some things are not about politics.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Geraldo.
Thank you.